Hello, welcome to a new episode. This week I'm going to be talking about my Atari collection. It might be a long one, because we might be here a little bit. So, I'll just kind of start off with a couple of the most recent pickups I've got for the Atari 2600, which is a pretty solid system. I don't really play it, to be honest with you. I tend to play my 7800, which is fully backwards compatible. Very nice. And it's SCART modded, so I can just plug in a component cable, stick on a SCART adapter, and away we go. Anyway, two most recent pickups are a couple of Red Label ones for Defender 2, because I think I have Defender 1, but I could be horribly wrong on that. In fact, I am. I don't have Defender 1. I do have Defender on here, but less said about that version, the better. That was Midway, I think. Then, Centipede. I do have Centipede. It's okay. It's not my favourite. It's not my favourite old school Atari game. We'll get to that. We'll get to that one. Moving on. Space Invaders, because you can't really have an Atari collection without that. I mean, that game is ancient comparatively today. It's certainly getting up there in terms of ancient. To be honest, these are up there in terms of ancient, but that's just the way things are. We're coming up to 50 years of the Atari 2600. I lean more into old school Atari than I do into, say, the Jaguar or the Lynx. I do have a Lynx. It doesn't work, unfortunately. And I sold my Jaguar earlier this year because I never played it, and any of the games I wanted to play on it were on Atari 50. So that's the most recent collection for those who did not know. It's fine. It's good. It's more of a museum piece, kind of covering games like Sword Quest. Now, I love Sword Quest. I love the concept of Sword Quest. I love the story behind Sword Quest. These are really the only games on the Atari that I really desperately wanted boxed. And now that they've finished the series after 40-something years, by finally making Airworld, which was included on that Atari 50 cartridge, I'd really want to see if someone could port it to this, because that would be a big buy, along with a repro copy of Waterworld, because that is just way too expensive. Though, you may not know this. If you do, great. They had a Sword Quest comic, not the one that came with the original games. They had a continuation. For the life of me, it escapes me what it was actually called, but that's really cool. It was kind of about finding Airworld and finding all those treasures and all of those ludicrously expensive for the time prizes. I mean, total was about $100,000 in 1970. Oh no, 1980? 1980, maybe 1982. Don't want to know what that is. Adjusted for inflation must be astronomical. Moving on. Atlantis. Don't know too much about this. From what I hear, it's a Defender clone, but could be horribly wrong. Mainly own it because A, it's iMagic, and B, its cartridge is very, very weird. Because the only uniformity you had was kind of the black ones from Atari itself, and Activision with Star Master. This game's fine. It's not. You don't really play Atari games for extensive periods of time. They are designed to be plugged in and played. That's kind of the point. You plug it in, play it for like maybe 10, 15 minutes, take it out again, shove in something else. Speaking of, Centipede again. Obviously not the Red Label variant, but I only picked up that Red Label variant because I liked the look of it. I already own Centipede. There it was. As I've already said, not my favourite. Air-Sea Battle. It's not that good. I don't think really anybody deliberately goes out of their way to play Air-Sea Battle. Let's be fair. Stampede. Don't know too much about this one. Looks okay. Cartridge isn't in the best condition. We will never be seeing this ported to anything because it's now legally owned by Microsoft. Anyway, less said about that, the better. Super Breakout. Probably not the best way to play Breakout. That might be on 7200. I know there was a port of that. I don't think I have it, but it's fine. That's fine. I've played it on other systems, and I feel the paddle controls are kind of necessary. I picked up a new set a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two. Definitely necessary. Night Driver. Not one I know too much about. Paddle controls, though. Speaking of, so that's quite fitting. And another paddle control game, if I'm right, Warlords. First heard about Warlords with the Xbox Live arcade version that was on the which was on the Microsoft Xbox Store, off the Microsoft Xbox Store, on off all the frickin' time. Saw it on there for 800 Microsoft points, if you remember those, and bought it. So you know what? It's not good. So I figured I'd get the original. The original is much better, and it actually has a story, which is the weird thing about a lot of these games. They do actually have story, and they're all in these big frickin' manuals that came with the games. I do have a few of those for these, but I'll get to that because it's kind of a fun story. Combat, because who doesn't have at least one, maybe 20 copies of Combat in their collection? Apparently it was £2. I didn't pay that, but yeah, that was £2. That's fine. We'll talk about that one last. Sky Skipper. Apparently Nintendo. That's a Nintendo Atari 2600 cartridge. That is very, very weird. Yeah, that's Nintendo. Strange. Speaking of Nintendo, Donkey Kong, the kind of game that started it all, really, for Nintendo. Maybe not like the big, drive that got them into the games industry in the first place. They've been around for about 70 years prior to that anyway, making toys and cards for the Japanese public. They only really started getting into it with this, but this is Mario and Donkey Kong's first appearance. It's literally Jumpman. Mario, Jumpman, Mario, and that's the start of it. Kinda had to own that. They're published by CBS. Whatever that is. Probably the worst port of Pac-Man you could possibly get your hands on. Yet, probably one of the best-selling games on the entire system, if strictly because Pac-Man was astronomical at the time. Astronomical. I'd still say it's pretty big nowadays. Might do a Pac-Man collection, That could be a lot of fun. I might add that to my list of things to do. Pole Position. Kind of one of the first major racing games. Weird way of putting the... weird way of writing that on the cartridge there, but I guess you can't fit Pole Position on. Unlike Golf. I don't know anything about Golf. I got it because the name is funny. Golf. Activision's Commando. I mainly picked this up because it's about as 70s as you could possibly get, ignoring the fact it was released in 1984. Don't know anything about it. It's just that kind of, very by the books, kind of, I don't know, it reeks of the 70s in a way, even though it definitely isn't. I don't really know what this one is, to be perfectly honest with you. I know it's Konami. Amadar. It's just another one of those cases of I've picked it up because it's a weird cartridge, and I thought it'd be fun to own it. Okay, we're getting into my favourite ones now. Another copy of SC Battle that I didn't realise I had. Great, that's useful. Stargate, which was £6. And I can't get that sticker off, and I hate it when people do that. Don't stick your stickers on the box or on the cartridge. It's not difficult. My Golf for use with the Atari computer system. So I'm not entirely sure if this is actually 2600 compatible. I don't think it is. I'm just going to put that down and pretend that it 100% is. Original Breakout. Super Breakout's better. Just is. Super Breakout's much better. Though, 2 copies of Centipede. Can't not have Millipede. Millipede's much better, and I'm very happy that she kind of popped up in Atari Mania. I didn't much care for that game. It launched last year with limited run, but I ended up getting rid of it just because it's, I don't know, it's that kind of fake difficulty spike where everything's randomized and it kind of ties into my absolute loathing of roguelike content. Moon Patrol. Don't know much about it. Thought the art, though. The art, very, very cool. I'm a big fan of 80s and 70s, like, sci-fi art. Because it's so wildly unacceptable. Though this was a late-ass release. This one. 1987. I don't know if you can see that right there. Come on, focus. Okay, Dad. Fine. 1987. Very late release for the Atari. Now, probably getting into my 2 favourite ones on the system. Yar's Revenge. First heard about this, again, with the Xbox Live Arcade version. Yes, I know that has nothing to do with this particular version, but it led me into the series, and apparently the original creator is working on a new one. It's not Yar's Return. That is a different one. That is a different game entirely. But yeah, so last of my loose Atari 2600 games. Adventure. Probably the only one I've actually finished. And I did it in about 10 minutes. And I still go back and play it because that game is very good. It is very good. First Easter egg in video gaming put there mainly out of spite to Atari because he wanted to get credit for making this game. Because of course you would. Of course you'd want credit for making the first action-adventure game. It's the reason it's called action-adventure. Adventure. Very good game. Wish I had it boxed. Unfortunately, I don't. I do have a few boxed Atari 2600 games, though. But before I get on to that, I did say I had a bunch of manuals. Picked up these. Literally all of these from a Cash Converters. 2 years ago? Maybe a year ago? They just had them there. They had one of those super rare, hard to find top loaders. So you had about 6 games that could go into this thing, and you could switch between them just by kind of twisting a dial or pressing a button. I'm not entirely sure how it worked, but that was very cool. What I did notice, however, is a load of those manuals, they didn't have the games for them. Like Vanguard. They didn't have Vanguard. They didn't have Real Sports Soccer or Real Sports Tennis or, conveniently, Atlantis. Although Atlantis might have been one I bought from them because I definitely bought a few. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of cool. I really like reading the manuals because they're in full colour a good chunk of the time, and that's just great. The only, as far as I can tell, movie tie-in game I have on this system, Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. It's not in good condition, and it was about 12 quid. It, to be fair, shouldn't have been. It should have been a £5, if that. It's not, not brilliant. It's a bit of a shame, really, that's in such bad nick. One that isn't in as bad nick, Circus Atari. This is pretty good. I mean, you wouldn't get a game entirely based around a circus nowadays. You just wouldn't. It's such a strange concept and kind of indicative of how freaking weird Atari was at the time. Like, very freaking weird. Star Raiders. Star Raiders was huge. Like, absolutely freaking massive. Primarily sold their, I want to say it was the Atari 400, maybe the Atari 800, maybe, line of computers and then they ported it 2600, which is not really the way to play it, but who cares? Okay. Sticking with the Space Theme. Asteroids. How can I not have asteroids? Who doesn't have asteroids with their Atari collection? Nonsense. Enduro. I bought... Yeah, not bad nick, this one, actually. Bit of a racing game. The kind of angle makes it look a lot like that game from Wreck-It Ralph. With, I want to say it's Turbo Time, that the main villain's from. Which is pretty cool. Looks a lot like that. Worse graphics, but yeah, you know, look fun. And finally, for my boxed Atari 2600 games, Berserk. Had to own Berserk. I have Berserk on my Vectrex, and was kind of the only game I had for it for a very long time, outside of Clean Sweep, before picking up a couple of others. Maybe I'll do a Vectrex video. It's been a while since I plugged that thing in, because I don't want it to break. Don't want it to break. It's very, very, very old, and they're not cheap. They're not cheap. But Berserk was kind of a key one. Unfortunately, this doesn't have the speech patterns. It just can't, can it? The Atari 2600 isn't built for speech. That version, though, is, which is cool. I'm a big Berserk fan. I like that Atari's bought that out recently, if you've seen the news. But yeah. So that's my 2600 games. I've got about 4 others, and then there's just a couple of little bits I'd like to talk about. Joust. I love Joust, but I'm really, really bad at it. I'm very bad at Joust. This is the 7800 version. Kind of the reason I wanted a 7800, actually. I wanted a better version of Joust, so I got it. I came, I saw, I got it. At the same time, I got my debatably only sealed game, Motor Psycho. Don't know too much about this. It's not technically sealed. The back's open, but I'm kind of leaving it in the case because I like the idea of owning a sealed 7800 game. Planet Smashers. This one's fine. It's not great. I'm not a big shmup fan. I do like them in parts, mainly with stuff like Death Smiles or stuff like just Death Smiles, really. I like Death Smiles. Everyone likes Death Smiles. If you don't like Death Smiles, you haven't played it. Go play Death Smiles. Okay, this popped up at E3, which I wasn't expecting it to. I believe Limited Run are handling the physical release of it. Karateka. This was quite a big game. Another game in kind of like these little plastic boxes. I got it around the same time as I got Enduro. And yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the remake that they did on the Xbox Live Arcade, because I used to be quite into Xbox, not anymore. But I do remember seeing that on there and being quite interested. Unfortunately, this new release doesn't have that. I really, really wish it did. I think that would be a really cool way to kind of tie off that particular collection. But it is cool owning the original Karateka. I don't know if that's the original release, but it is a Super Game cartridge. Okay, that's kind of it for Atari games themselves. Just a couple of little bits. I picked up this, which is just kind of a little handheld console. I'm not sure who released it, actually. Doesn't release it. Blaze. That explains a few things. They're the guys who are behind the Evercade. I do have a small Evercade collection. Might talk about that another time. This is kind of where I beat Adventure for the first time, and you know what? I really liked it. Plus, it's kind of wood grain. I really shouldn't leave those batteries in there, but I have, so I'm a fool. But yeah, that's a cool little handheld. I have another one, which was the Atari Flashback Portable. Bucket load of games on it. How many games? 60. So 10 more than that one. And this was a quid. This was a quid out of game. You know what? Worth it. Could not own a Pong machine, could I? This is fine. I've got it out like maybe twice. it's kind of crap. It does have a lot of stuff in it. Warlords, Breakout, Night Driver, Circus Atari, Off the Wall, Street Racer, Super Breakout, Canyon Bomber, Demons to Diamonds, Video Olympics, and of course, Pulp. Because why would you not have... Yeah, this is fine. It's okay. Now, the final thing that I picked up a couple of... about this time last year, actually, for a lot of money. The Atari VCS, Atari's latest and currently only video game console. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Unfortunately, it does have a lot of problems, mostly on the software side of things. And apparently on the classic controller, that twisty knob bit can snap, which, considering that was 300 quid, though they are quite on the ball with the problem side of things. I bought Missile Command Recharged on there, not their re-released one, the old one. So they have two versions. You've got classic Missile Command Recharged and new Missile Command Recharged. Don't really care. I ended up buying it twice by mistake on a digital front. Not quite ideal, but yeah, no, it's a solid console. I might do a video on it. We'll see. I do want to. I need to play it more. I definitely need to play it more. I'm kind of hoping some more stuff will come out for it. I'm gonna pick up Atari Mania on it. Actually, that'd be pretty good. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that Atari's releasing on the bloody thing is on other systems, and they're releasing it physically through limited run. So I'm leaning more in that direction than actually playing the 300 quid console. Though I hear it runs a lot of streaming stuff really good, so that's great. That's kind of it, guys. There is one other little thing. That's just a little belt buckle I picked up in where did I pick that up? Swindon a good while ago in the UK, about 2 years ago. I was looking there just for... There's a really good retro game shop there that I'm hoping to do a video on soonish. But yeah, okay, that's it. That's it for Atari. Look out for next week. I'm probably going to do either a 3DO video or I'm going to do an Evercade one. We'll see. I might do the Vectrex, actually. Who knows? But yeah, that's another video for this week, guys. Thank you for watching and signing off.